So measuring, I think, is super important. And I think we need to bear this always in our mind. What we are not able to measure, we shouldn't even start doing it, right? Because in the end, you need to measure impact. You need to measure your return on investment. So if you don't even have a baseline, if you haven't measured your baseline, if you don't even know where you're starting from, you better get started with measuring your baseline before you jump on AI.
Welcome to Data and AI Mastery, the podcast where we bring you cutting-edge insights, practical advice, and inspiring stories from the leaders shaping the future of data and AI across the globe. I'm your host, Raoul-Gabriel Urma, founder of Cambridge Spark, the leader in transformational data and AI upskilling, career development, and progression. In each episode, I will be diving into real-world case studies of companies harnessing the power of AI to drive innovation, reduce costs, and create new business opportunities. So whether you're an aspiring data scientist, AI engineer, or seasoned executive, this show is designed to give you the tools and knowledge to stay ahead in a world where data is transforming every aspect of business. Stay ahead, stay inspired, stay masterful. Welcome to Data and AI Mastery.
All right. Hey, Conny, how are you?
I'm very good, Raoul. Thank you for having me here today.
Hey, it's a real pleasure. I can't wait for our conversation. You have such a great experience in the financial sector, VP of Global AI Transformation. So it's going to be fascinating. So, Conny, I mean, to kick us off, I'd love to hear your story, right? What was your path to the data and AI leadership, journey, and where you are today?
Absolutely. It was definitely not the straight path.
Oh, yeah?
So it took quite a few turns. So I think my main key drivers have always been curiosity, to explore new things, being up for new challenges, but also at the same time to create a positive impact. I don't think I could ever do something that doesn't have a bigger meaning behind. So it has really taken me through, the path has started actually in microfinance. I was setting up some microfinance bank, in Latin America and Africa. And from there I moved on to consulting. And I've kind of ended up in financial sector consulting. I had then some different corporate roles. And in the financial sector for the past 10 years, different roles, really from in-house consulting, digital transformation, operations, but always kind of at the edge of trying something new, and bringing value to the teams and to the people. So I think that's kind of my biggest driver. And last year, when I was in a role that was more related to ESG, we started really experimenting a lot with AI and how to personalize our experience, our clients' experience more with AI. And this is how it kind of got stuck in there. And I think it's not because of the hype, it was really because it's a new technology or it's a new, it's a new world that's opening up, which I think sparked my curiosity. And here I am right now. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Well, what a rich experience. And it's great to hear curiosity as a common thread.
Yeah.
Well, so I'd love to get your perspective. There's a lot of talk about AI transformation. You're clearly the expert. So to kick us up, how do you define AI transformation for the audience?
Yeah, so it's a really big word, right? Transformation. Yeah. It means actually transforming doesn't mean just, putting some AI layer on top of something, or it's just having another IT project running. I think it's really a change of a mindset, a cultural change that needs to happen. I think we heard it as well this morning, right, in the conversation. So I think this cultural change needs to happen with the people. It starts with the people. And I think if the organization, especially, kind of more legacy organizations, they want to drive this change, they need to bring the people on board, and they need to make sure that AI becomes an AI-first mindset, so that people, whatever they do, whatever kind of process, whatever customer interaction that they face, say, how can we actually drive and enhance this and make it better and be actually, better at what we're doing with AI? So I think it's really this change of mindset of leaving behind, the legacy systems and processes and really thinking, how can we reinvent ourselves with AI? And so I think transformation really happens in all levels of the organization, but especially it starts with the people. So the people need to be on board. They need to drive this.
Great. I like what you said about reinventing yourself with AI, and it's all about the people. So what's in it for organizations? Like, why should they care and why should they think about, hey, you really need to think about your AI transformation?
Yeah. So it very much depends on the sector, but probably there are some common themes that I see. So when it comes to processes, I think the very common theme is always process automation, right?
Yeah.
So automating processes, getting rid of the spreadsheets. There are entire organizations that are built on spreadsheets, doesn't know right, PowerPoints. So I think obviously, that's the easy one. However, you need to connect as well the different dots and different initiatives in order to create an impact. So I think automation is always a big topic, creating efficiencies through automation. But also actually, how can you increment the revenue, of your business and of the organization? How can you serve your customers better? So it doesn't matter if it's like a B2B or B2C organization. How can you serve your customers better? How can you make their interaction with you, more of a better experience? And also, what kind of products and data and insights can you actually offer to your customers? So how can you hyper-personalize this offer? So I think for me, there are three common themes, and probably depending on the industry you're in, probably as well some risk and compliance perspective, how can we make it more robust, right? But I think the three common themes that I see really is creating efficiencies through automations, but also incrementing basically your business growth and generating more revenues, unlocking revenue streams that probably were not possible before. And then this comes very much linked to how do you improve your customer interactions? What kind of service do you deliver? And the hyper-personalized offer.
Amazing. So if I play this back, organizations should care because there's a few levels that are important. There's cost efficiencies. There is obviously revenue growth. Every business out there wants to drive top line. But there's also something around customer experience and innovation that you mentioned, right?
Absolutely.
And possibly risk management. That's super interesting. Yeah, it makes sense. Every organization should care about all of that.
Yeah.
And well, in this context, what do you think is important to measure, right? Let's say an organization and you're investing in this AI transformation. What are the key things that would be worth thinking about?
Yeah, so measuring, I think, is super important. And I think we need to bear this always in our mind. What we are not able to measure, we shouldn't even start doing it, right? Because in the end, you need to measure impact. You need to measure your return on investment. So if you don't even have a baseline, if you haven't measured your baseline, if you don't even know where you're starting from, better get started with measuring your baseline before you jump on AI, right? So I think what are the KPIs that you're measuring in terms of process automation is obviously the rate, of automation, the number of processes that you have automated, the time that you have saved, resources that you have saved. So basically everything which is efficiency related. So I think this is, and it comes in terms of, savings, but also I think when it comes to revenue growth, it is, are you expanding properly to new markets? So are you incrementing your customer base? Are you incrementing your conversion rates in your funnel? So I think that's also a very interesting measure, especially when it comes to hyper-personalization of offers. So the more insights you have about your customers, the more bespoke the offering and the value proposition is that you can make to your customers. Do you have higher conversion rates in your funnel? Probably yes, because customers, they are more drawn into a properly personalized offering. But as well, the way how you interact with them. So if we talked a lot about contact center, automation. There are a lot of new technologies right now that help with contact centers. So if you get a very good customer interactions through, voice bots, for instance, and you have a 24/7 self-service available, is your NPS getting better? So is your customer service, and your customer satisfaction higher? So it really very much depends, on what kind of initiatives and what importance you give, but you need to be able to measure it. The baseline and the impact that you're producing, the ultimate impact. And in between is the adoption rate. So I think if you don't adopt it, you will not get to the ultimate impact. You need to know always, what impact you're measuring, but as well in the middle is the adoption that you to measure. So how well is actually your organization adopting AI? And this starts with the individual productivity, individual use of those tools, but also in terms of teams and the overall organization, basically what's the adoption rate? And I think this is a very important KPI to have in your mind.
Super interesting. So really important to keep track of operational metrics, marketing and sales funnel, and of course, on the people adoption side.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you need some real science to make the most out of the AI transformation. So does that make the case for you should invest in data infrastructure even more so? Or what's the right balance, you think?
Data is key.
Data is key?
Data is key. If you have messy data, you'll get a messy output or probably a suboptimal output, right? Data is always a challenge in organizations, especially if they sit in silos, if they sit in inaccessible databases. Not so much the fact if they are structured or unstructured, but if they sit on a spreadsheet or someone's local drive, then probably they are hard to access, right? Or worse, even if they sit in someone's mind and they are not even, sitting on a spreadsheet. So I think data is always the biggest challenge. You always get the best results if you have your data super well organized and accessible data lakes, right? Now, organizations, especially, the larger and complex ones, they usually have their data sitting in various different sources and they are not always accessible. You should definitely invest in data. Absolutely. I think this is a no-brainer. You can do things, don't get me wrong. You can already do small things with the data that you have accessible or even on your SharePoint, But look, it won't move the needle. You really need to invest in a good data infrastructure in order to have access to those data.
Great.
And need to as well invest in guardrails. So only because the data are accessible doesn't mean you can always use them for every purpose. So I think it's especially in highly regulated industries, it's super important, that there is the right level of data protection in place and that very sensible customer data, personal data are not used for the wrong purposes, right? And especially when we talk about open language models, that are open to the public. So I think it's very important to make sure that they are safeguarded, they are, they have the right protection layer, but not in a way that they are totally unusable. It comes to this extreme as well, where they're totally cut off. So it's striking the right balance, actually.
Yeah, super interesting. It sounds like you can do with, sort of suboptimal data assets, but if you want to get the flywheel, you're going to have to increase the quality because that really gives you better outcomes. But also I like what you say around, you also need to be prepared to invest in the governance, the guardrails of it, depending on your sector, right? Including finance sector.
Yeah.
Super interesting. Well, that leads me nicely to the next question, which is, what are some of the misconceptions maybe that you're hearing about, AI transformation that, you want to debunk a little bit?
Yeah, so probably there are 3 or so. There are a lot, there are plenty, right? Probably top 3. Treating AI as just another tech project.
Yeah.
It's definitely not. It's really, it needs to be embedded in your organization in order to produce the desired impact. And this really starts again with the people and with the change management. Like, don't expect just because you give them a tool, they're going to use it. Even though they might use it, for their personal life. If it's not really deeply rooted and embedded in your systems and super well integrated in your processes, otherwise it just becomes another tool that's isolated, swivel chair approach. It's like just another one. So it really needs to be, it's not just a tech project. It's really an entire shift of mindset, right? It starts with the people, but they need to have the access to the right tools and they need to be embedded in your system. So it's not an isolated project, okay? Then in order to get the people on board, you cannot just expect them, as I said, just to use it. You need to make sure that the adoption rate is growing and exponentially because you need them to use those and to produce the outcomes. So, and how do you do this? There are several approaches. I think what's always kind of working is very gamified approach, where they just experiment, they play around, they can use challenges, solve challenges, do hackathons, run events. So give them something to be excited about, and something they can play around and experiment with. So I think this kind of playful approach usually works very well.
Great.
And then for me, it's another thing, just expecting AI to do the magic. So it's like, we are sitting here in a very beautiful setting, but just imagine, if it was just a facade that was like painted, very beautiful, but then you enter actually this building and you see that the pipes are broken, heating is not working and everything. Like if you just put an AI layer on top of something that is broken, it's still broken. It's just probably a bit more quicker, and a bit more shiny from the outside, but inside it's still broken. So you need to make sure you fix your processes, and you have everything else in place as well, because then AI can actually do some more magic and it's not just a shiny facade from the outside.
Great. I love it. So you really have to think about the technology, the people and the processes.
Yeah.
And I guess we live in a world where there's a lot of excitement about AI. So it's important to manage expectations and do the hard work if you want to get the best of it. I hope you're enjoying today's conversation. If you're finding the insights useful, please do take a moment to subscribe to the Data and AI Mastery podcast and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Every new follow helps us reach more people and share the incredible work being done by today's data and AI leader. All right, let's go back to the episode. Here's a scenario, right? Like you're, an organization, a large organization, and you're thinking about your AI transformation. Can you walk us through how would you go about, helping set the vision for AI and, the North Star, right? Because you mentioned we need to get people on the journey. So how do you achieve that? Where do you start?
I think it needs to align with your ultimate business goals. So what do you want to achieve as a business? So really, do you want to serve your customers better? You want to achieve, high turnover rates. So I think it needs to align, first of all, with your business. It cannot just be another thing that's isolated from your business goals. It must really fit very well into your overall business strategy.
Yeah.
And then what's super important, you need to buy in from your executive, from the C-suite, basically.
And why? Why is it so important?
Because it all starts with the tone from the top, as we call it. If you don't have buy-in from the C-suite, then even though, people will do some bottom-up work, but they will still stuck somewhere in the middle. So it will never produce actually the real outcome. If you've got sponsorship from the top, you'll have sponsorship in terms of budget, in terms of commitment, in terms of resources, in terms of priorities.
Yeah.
You get a lot of more things done if you've got this high-level buy-in.
How do you achieve sponsorship from the top?
I think they need to be very clear about the results and the impact it can produce. And if the philosophy is really of using AI to transform the organization, to transform the business and becoming AI first and embed this in everything we do, then this needs to be properly communicated.
Yep.
Okay. And it needs to be communicated from, the AI team that we are doing all this work to our top level so that they understand actually, what are the benefits, what's in for the organization, how can we benefit from it? And then it needs to be communicated to the rest of the organization so that everybody is on board. So I think communication is absolutely key and buy-in is absolutely key.
Great. So, let's say that we've got a way to make sure the execs are bought in, right? Yeah. And they want to make things happen.
Yeah.
Is there like a process or a series of workshops that help define the vision and the North Star that you recommend to go through?
I think every business line basically needs to have a very clear view on where AI can produce its results, right? And I think it's kind of a three-dimensional puzzle. It all needs to link in very well in order to have a global picture. So as I said before, right? So AI can give you very good results if you have a very clear vision what will happen with your customer interactions, what will happen with the business, what will happen more with the back office, right? In terms of risk. It really depends where you set your priorities. But I think it's very clear that especially every business is very clear about what results do they want to achieve, and how does this fit in. Does it start with the people again and with the workshops? Absolutely. I think there are different ways how to run this. I think a very interesting way as well to see where the real need is. If you give people the tools and you let them play around and start POCing, and piloting, you actually see where the real need is, where the real pain points are that you want to resolve, right? Because people, they will start using this tool in order to resolve their major pain points, the boring, repetitive task and so on, right? But they will also become very creative and say, actually, what do we want to resolve more for, globally as a business? So I think these visions, they combine in the end, the overall strategy and say, this is where we want to go, okay? And this is where we set our priorities in. We cannot tackle everything at the same time. All the technology is probably not yet there to tackle all the problems at the same time. But I think it's clear, the direction of travel is very clear. And right now it's about setting the priorities. What do we want to achieve first? Which kind of benefits do we want to unlock first? Where's the business case behind it? Yeah. It all depends on the business case. Without a business case, there is no initiative.
Yeah. So it sounds like, there's a step of ensuring we're aligned with the business goals.
Absolutely.
Define some commercial priorities, defined obviously by the board and the execs. Yeah. But it sounds like it's useful to also complement that with a bottom-up approach, because sort of use cases, pain points get surfaced out, bottom-up, and then
top-down.
And then you combine it with top-down. Okay.
Yeah. Top-down, bottom-up, I think this combination will work the best, because then you see what the real needs are, from bottom-up, and you will get the people on board. But this needs to be combined absolutely with a top-down message and buy-in.
Great. And how do you glue it all together so it's kind of like consistent? That do you suggest that what should be the accountability for like gluing all of that together, top down and bottom up, and make progress
on all levels of the organizations? Accountability doesn't just sit with your CEO, right? Or just doesn't sit with your chief AI officer. It sits in all the levels of the organizations, and it starts with the end user. Literally, it's like if you're a process owner, if you're a product owner, it starts with you. because you're managing this product or this process. So think about how you can embed and AI and make it, beneficial for you and the organization and your customer. Accountability is on all levels. It cannot just be delegated, to an AI team or a tech team that does the execution. They will deliver the product, but actually the adoption, and the change management, it happens on the product owner and the process owner side. So accountability is there.
Great.
On all levels.
I like that. So you're ultimately accountable for the business goals.
100%.
So if that's clear, you have something to work towards, and AI can support delivering on that. Really like that. So, which leads me, I guess, to the next question. Any recommendations on how to identify opportunities where AI might deliver quick wins? There's a balance of short-term versus long-term, especially with change management. You want to show kind of quick results. So how do you think about this question?
Yeah. All right. I think the best way to go about this is a combination of certain quick wins that produce very quick results and also test it to see if it actually works. And I'll tell you in a minute, right, how you think you go about it. And also really more the bigger strategic initiatives that take longer, that take certain investment, resources, and take just longer time to build and to deploy, right? The combination of those two things, I think, works the magic. Why? Because you give people already a product and, something to test and to pilot and to see if it actually works. And just by gluing basically together, if you just give them a tool that helps them just to fix, get rid of a stupid spreadsheet, to be honest, just a VLOOKUP, you can replace it with AI, or just instead of going through hundreds of pages of contracts and documents, just have this. So I think if you give people already the tools for certain task automation, you will start already seeing small results. It doesn't just give you the big impact yet, right? For the big impact, you really need to have a transformational approach and need to have the bigger bets, the bigger initiatives. So I think it's a combination, and you always have this feedback loop, because what work or what might not work, in the smaller initiatives will feed back into the longer term and or the medium term initiatives. So how do you identify them? I think OpenAI, I think it was in July or so, they published an interesting playbook around this and say, just ask your people where their major pain points are. What's most painful for you? When I ask this question, to a group of people, when we do a little hackathon or so, and they say, spreadsheets, PowerPoints. It's like, just imagine a world without spreadsheets and PowerPoints. I think we would all live way happier, wouldn't we? Obviously, that's the first thing that comes to their mind, right? Documents, PowerPoints, spreadsheets, just get rid of it. It will definitely help you. But will it produce this big transformational impact? Probably not. But it's a first step. So identify this boring, repetitive, painful task where a human doesn't really add that much value. This can be done, by AI. Where does human add value? Customer interaction, human interaction. So I think that's the way how we really add value, to our environment. And this being said, if you then connect the dots, and have the bigger initiatives running end-to-end, transforming a process end-to-end, and especially if you're reimagining this process end-to-end, just starting on a blank sheet of paper, this is then actually how you drive the real bigger impact. And bet on this. Rather do fewer, bigger things, right, than just getting lost in the millions of pilots and initiatives.
Interesting. So if I play this back, it sounds like there's a combination of general productivity, task automation across the wider workforce, which makes the job more fulfilling. And one approach is to do a surveying of what are the pain points, what are you struggling with. But what I think you're saying is you need to combine that with maybe a bit of a deeper transformation, focus on workflow and processes that are aligned to your business, and that'll take longer.
And if I just may add to this, because so basically you have the quick wins, right? And you have the more strategic initiatives. I think what's always important to have in mind are two key drivers, which is the impact that you want to produce, and it can be the impact in terms of P&L, right? So efficiencies, or revenue growth, or customer experience. But I think it's always a question as well of technical feasibility. So while you have tools already available, can be out-of-the-box market tools, can be in-house build tools. And the important thing is, can you actually produce this impact? Is this technically feasible in a certain period of time? Because if you go for the big initiatives that are technically costing you a lot of money, and probably the technology is not yet mature enough to tackle this, just probably you want to put them on hold for a bit. And in 3 months' time, you probably, you need to review them, obviously. But in a couple of months' time, the technology right now evolves at speed of light. So we got new models, new features coming up every month. So probably what you cannot resolve yet today in a moderately or in an easy way, just park it, put it on hold, and review it. In a couple of months' time down the road, you will probably have the technology in place.
Really interesting. So you do need a cadence of kind of like reviewing the art of the possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the meantime, just do the quick wins and focus on what's actually possible, technically feasible, and what's producing your impact. So business case, ROI.
Yeah.
What moves the needle. Yeah.
So how do you manage the balance between, like you said, reinvent versus incremental improvements? And then we discussed that you need a cadence of actively reviewing the art of the possible. You know, if you run this as a portfolio, how do you balance it all?
Yeah, that's a very good question, right? So I think you need definitely have a portfolio, like an inventory of things, right, that you want to address. And I would let people actually give them access to those tools, let them create, their small agents or custom GPTs, let them increment their personal productivity of it. And then you have, your portfolio of the strategic bets with strategically allocated budget to this and resources. But what's really interesting, build a connection between the two, because a serious number of custom GPTs, or small copilot agents, they might become a product. Because if you have got 40 people building the same GPT, there is a need actually, probably to convert this into a product. So I think you need to have an inventory of strategic bets, 100%, but you also need to have a clear view on what are the people doing, with the tools and what are they building with it, because this is where the real need arises. Yeah. And if there's a gap, basically, with what you want to try or achieve with your strategic bets, which is not yet resolved, then get this information, from down there. So I think it's kind of a feedback or an input, right, that you need to always evaluate and measure.
Amazing. So how do you think about an AI native startup or company versus more of a legacy organizations? Because we've talked about reimagination or reinventing. Yeah. If you're an AI native startup, you don't need to reinvent, you're just, inventing on the spot. So how do you think about, how can legacy organization compete or adapt in this environment?
It's really interesting, right? And I think I'm kind of with my both feet in both worlds right now. I have just created, a small startup, and actually there you can be AI first, right? You have your AI tools, you connect them to all your databases and to your calendar and to your emails, and then you create your buyer personas to test the different products around it. So because you don't have the resources to hire a big team, so what do? You try to do this with AI, right? You don't even think about hiring because you just do it with AI. So this is kind of this AI first native mindset as entrepreneurs right now that are creating their companies in 2025. They have it because of resource limitations. Now, when you go into more legacy organizations, obviously the challenge there is to transform, right? And transform legacy culture, mindsets, processes, systems, databases. Yeah. I don't think the ambition will ever be to be, where a startup is, also because probably you're facing different regulatory pressures that a startup is not facing. So the playing fields are not really leveled. Let's make it clear. However, I think there is a lot that legacy organizations, could learn as well from the startups, and how to become more agile around, certain decision-making processes, and how we be faster as well in approval processes. Technology evolves at the speed of light, and certain processes are still stuck in the 20th century rather than the 21st century. So I think it's really time to speed up, become more agile around it, and to adapt as well to this new environment where we are. And I think this pressure of adapting and learning as well from what others are doing, it's not always a copy-paste, right? You cannot always copy what others are doing into your own organization because you're facing different challenges. But I think there's a lot good practices, that could be adopted. But it's interesting actually to see, how those different types of organizations are tackling the different challenges in their ways.
Yeah, I agree with you, because, as a startup today, as you said, you can lean onto tools, AI agents to do a lot of the groundwork much faster, right? Yeah. Whereas a legacy organization, what they've got going on is they have distribution, they've got an existing customer base, which is always really hard to build from scratch. Yeah. So it's kind of like an interesting tension between, you having to reinvent yourself, but you've got distribution. And AI native, you can innovate. You don't yet have the distribution. Yeah. So, it feels like we're living really interesting times.
And I think what you just mentioned, this innovation, it's like organizations, like the larger complex organizations, I think it's important that they create safe spaces for innovation. Yeah. Because innovation is not always born, let's say, within those organizations. So I think in order for employees to feel that they have the freedom, and the safe spaces as well, to innovate and to test certain things, there are ways how to do this, right? You can build sandbox environments, for instance, that are totally ring-fenced from customer base, from all your sensitive data. So just build some safe spaces where you can give access to your employees in order to test and to create and to experiment and see what's actually working before you start taking it, to your environments. Because then it's all going again through different approval levels and so on and so forth. And this kind of burns innovation, before it has even started. So I think giving people the freedom and the safe space to innovate in different environments, I think will bring legacy organizations a bit closer to the startups. Not exactly there, but I think kind of, it's at least a step in this direction.
Yeah, I really like what you say. You've got to be ambidextrous and, kind of like have some innovation going at the same time in case, you get disrupted. You're actually leaning on the disruption yourself. So that's a safe bet for the future. And I also like what you say about, you got to get the people on a journey, right? Yeah. So it's all about the culture. Yeah. You have a lot of experience running large scale upskilling programs. Yeah. Could you share what's working, and your experience with it?
Yeah. So I think what's funny is that we think upskilling equals always learning in the traditional way of learning. So when I think of learning, I always think of the mandatory training courses I need to go through. And it's not exactly appealing, right, to the majority of the, let's say, of the workforce. Especially right now in 2025, and our attention span basically is reduced to 30-second reels, right, as we are scrolling through our mobile. And it's like, that's kind of the consumptions that we are expecting. So like a TikTok reel or Instagram reel. So I think you need to bring learning and upskilling to the 21st century, and especially to the year 2025, almost 2026. So kind of adapt this learning path. So it's not the traditional classroom learning, and it's like that's kind of probably perceived as not so super attractive. You need to give people an experience. I think what really gets stuck when we run, certain events is like if people feel that this is an experience, where they can not only learn, but actually they emotionally connect to this. They have way better takeaways and the impact that you create is way bigger. So obviously running events like hackathons and on-site challenges is more resourceful and more costly. It's like, it doesn't allow you to scale as like, for instance, with online events or videos. But I think it's a combination of those two things. So I think it's really the on-site experience where people connect, there's emotional connection, you have some gamified experiences. I think that always works really well. And you see those light bulb moments and you can interact with those people when they have those light bulb moments. So I think this really creates some spark. But you can also really take it to online, right? So you have different kind of videos. Let people share. Let people brag about what they build and what they achieve with it. Just don't think learning is like top down from, learning team, to the rest of the workforce. It's like, let people share the experience, right? What's working really well on social media is people are bragging. People are bragging about the holidays, about the food that they're eating. So let people brag about the custom GPT that they have built.
I see.
It's like, let people, give them a platform, no judge, not being judgmental, just let them brag about it. And let's say, this is what I've done, this is what I've built, this is the impact that I've created. And here I am to share it with you. And I give you access to this. So give them this space as well, this platform to share this. And this kind of community feeling, I think building this emotional connection as well, and saying, you're doing something great right now. You're building something. You're part of an amazing journey. And we're all in it together. So this kind of feeling of a community, this definitely helps, as well to spark interest. So I think it's a different combination of different kind of tools and platforms that work. But I think emotional connection is definitely one of them, and the experience.
Great. Thank you, Conny. So can I take you to a few personal questions now?
Absolutely.
All right. Great. Well, you and I are both a Hyrox enthusiast and athletes. So I'd love to get a peek of your favorite workout routine.
Favorite workout routine. I don't like running, I have to be honest. I don't like running at all. I'm just doing it just to get prepared for the race. So I'm definitely more someone who likes strength training, definitely over running. but kind of get the grip of it. So I think right now, in order just, to bring this into my routine, I definitely not only do the typical CrossFit circuits and the heavy lifting, I've embedded quite some running right now as well into my routine, which kind of start liking a little bit more right now. Yeah, not too much yet, but I think it kind of gives you a very complete routine. So 5 to 6 times a week or so.
Amazing. And what's your favorite music genre when you have a good workout?
Definitely some electric music or so. However, to be honest, I run without my earpods. I do run without music. Yeah, I kind of soak in the nature.
Hardcore.
Absolutely. Yeah, so at home, I think the playlist that's running up and down is probably more determined by my kids than by myself, which is right now giving us a lot of vibes from an 8-year-old perspective rather than, it's not really reflecting my music taste, whether the one that's of my kids. Yeah.
Great. And what's coming up in the fitness competition side for you?
It's coming up. So actually the race on Sunday, let's see how that goes. Then I think there is still some trail running from here until, just before Christmas. And I think next year there are a couple of new races and some new formats that are really appealing. So kind of some copies of High Rocks, but there are also some new fitness races that are more strength focused, which I think I definitely, and less running. So more strength, less running, that's definitely more appealing to me. So I'm just going to give it a try.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Conny. It's been a real pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you all for having me. It was a pleasure for me as well. Thank you.
I've really enjoyed this discussion with Conny, great insights about AI transformations. What I really liked is that we talked about it's not just about technology, of course, it's about the people and the processes. You can't just sprinkle AI and hope that your business will perform so much better. You really have to think about how you equip your people for success. You really have to think about your business priorities and where you want AI to really drive meaningful outcomes for you, whether it's on the operational side, whether it's on the commercial growth or the customer experience or risk management. So that's really essential. And we also talked about how do you make it happen, right? You definitely need a combined approach of top-down, your execs, senior leadership. They need to believe in it. They need to understand how AI can help drive business for them. But you also need to combine it with a bottom-up approach because actually a lot of the pain and quick wins like task automation and inertia suffers out from your frontline workers. So you need to combine it. And Conny shared also really interesting experience around how do you run successful upskilling programs at scale? So thinking about hackathons, events, where there's real emotions and people feel part of it is absolutely essential.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Data and AI Mastery. If you found value in today's discussion, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an insight from the leaders driving the future of data and AI. And if you're a data and AI leader looking to upskill your workforce with the fundamental data and AI skills to transform your business, Cambridge Spark is here to guide you every step of the way. Be sure to reach out to us on LinkedIn or on our website, cambridgespark.com. Until then, be sure to keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible with data, and remember, mastery comes with continued learning and action. Until next time, stay ahead, stay inspired, and stay masterful.